we're going to be taking a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to build out a video production facility. As you can see here, I was just putting in some conduit that runs up to our first and second floor for our outdoor event space and meeting space up on the second floor. So this conduit's going to run all the way up 2 floors and then circle back to our main control room. So today we'll give you a tour of what's going on. We're in the finishing phases here of construction right now, getting ready to actually start pulling our finished wire on. So we're selecting our different paint colors and figuring out what we want our layout to be, get ready to start putting in some of the furniture. So I'm going to give you guys a tour of what's going on, where we're at today. We've been producing a video series throughout the past year and a half. Unfortunately, construction can take a lot longer than we expect. We've been working on shooting all the B-roll footage and everything. So what you'll be able to see over the course of the coming months is a look back of what it took to get us to the spot we're at today. And then going forward, you're going to be able to see how we actually get the space up and running. So let's go ahead and take a look at what our main control room looks like. Alright, so we're standing outside of our master control room. So outside of here, this is going to be our main entrance. We'll have some more of those glass panels and a doorway. So you'll come on into our master control. This is where all the action is going to happen. So any of the live streaming or content that we're shooting, it's all going to be run out of this spot here. We'll have our multi-view live preview and everything with our video switcher, sound and lighting. And then be able to have a little spot for whoever is directing the show to sit back here, watch what's going on, and call the action shots. So you come on into our master control. The flow inside of here is basically we've got our server and IT room. This is where all of our equipment's going to run back to. So this is going to be a heavily isolated room with some sound dampening inside of it. We made sure all the walls in here go up to the ceiling, so that way we can try to prevent the sound from the hum of all the fans and the equipment and everything permeating into the other rooms. So this is going to be our main IT room. We'll have a server rack inside of here. And all the conduit that we saw inside of the studio is also runs back into here. So the problem with this room is that the AC unit is tied in with everything next door. So whenever the AC is running, the noise permeates into the studio and into the podcast room, so we're not exactly sure how that's going to sound or how that'll work. So we'll probably end up having to just set up a little isolated AC unit on the floor inside of here, set up some type of ventilation. We did make sure they put an AC vent in, but again, it's not going to be running all the time, so I can't wait to see how hot it gets inside of here, especially as we get more equipment. So this will be where all of our media storage, our networking, and our video cabling from outside and the second floor, our podcast room, and our video studio all runs into there. So got our IT room to the left, and then this is our online editing room. This is where all the content will be edited and made to look pretty, sound amazing. So we'll have a setup inside of here where we've got our overhead monitor for the producer to watch what's going on. They can sit here on the couch, watch what the editor's doing, and be able to see it all live. So we'll have a nice workstation set up inside of here for all of our audio and video post-production workflow. And then to this side here, we've got wires hanging from everywhere that I keep bumped into. So this is our makeup and green room. So the idea with this room is if we have a production that's going on, say we've got a 3-hour live stream, and then we've got talent that's coming in an hour and a half in or whatever, they need to come in, be able to get ready, look good for camera, get their costume, whatever it is, makeup and wardrobe done, so they can come in through the studio control room, get set up, and then they can sneak through this door. We can shut off the light, and then they can actually sneak inside of the studio here, and then you won't even have a clue that somebody came in. So they come on in, and then they are able to, go on for their whatever, and then they're able to go on for their segment and be on camera. So we thought of a few different design layouts and how the whole workflow works for the studio. Again, going from master control to the IT to the editing, makeup and green room. So you come in, sneak through there, and then we've got this little side door. And the great thing too with this is, like I was saying, this ends up being a little raised stage platform for if we want to do black box theater events or any type of EDM music trend shows. We're planning on having DJs come in and present. They can come onto stage from the backstage door and get up here without interrupting the workflow of the rest of the studio. So yeah, unfortunately, there's a little bit of noise penetration that still comes through to the AC unit. We're kind of working with what we got. As you can hear, the room right now obviously is just a bunch of flat walls, so we still have a pretty good echo, but we'll actually sound treat these with some type of acoustical treatment to help deaden the sound and what's bouncing around in the room. And then again, for the ceiling, we'll put a whole layer of insulation paneling above that helps separate us from the floor above us. So I think once we, treat the walls a little bit with some acoustical panels and put the insulation and the ceiling tiles are in there, it's going to help cancel out some of the echo and then, some of the noise coming through from the AC unit. In an ideal situation, you want to make sure that your AC handler is far away from the studio, and then you use, they make specific ductwork that doesn't make that whistling noise. But again, we're just working with what we were afforded, so we're going to make the best out of the situation. So as you can see up in the studio ceiling, we ran conduit all throughout. That comes down to our junction boxes. We basically got 2 on the wall behind me, and then 1 on this wall over here. That's going to allow us to connect our cameras and video displays, any type of audio hookups that we want to have for our microphones or sound. And they all run up into the ceiling to a central junction box, and then that way we don't have to open all the different ceiling tiles and deal with the insulation. We just open that one ceiling tile, and then the conduit runs across through our green room and through the editing room all the way over to our IT room. So that's going to make it really nice for the future as technology changes and as we grow and expand, so we can easily add new stuff as we go. We plan on having a lighting grid right below this ceiling space, so hopefully in the coming videos, maybe the 3rd one from now, we'll actually start work on putting our lighting grid in. That will allow us to obviously hang lights overhead to get the best angles. Also be able to put some camera equipment and different settings that we want to hang, so that's going to be a nice feature to have inside here. One of the ideas of what we want to use the space for too is not just our live streaming production, but actually be able to do live events, have different concerts, maybe do some black box theater performances down here. So we're going to set up a raised stage over on this side of the studio, and then that's the great thing about these double doors. We can open these guys up, and it gives us a really good amount of room to be able to have some seating out here. This is actually our podcast room here. So we're going to have glass walls that come out across here and box in the room. And then we'll have a table coming off of the center here, allowing us to have 2 guests sitting on one side and then the host and co-host on the other. We're going to have 3 television screens inside of here, so we'll have our main screen over the table. That way, we can show whatever is on our computer screens or whatever video we're showing, we can talk about it. And then we've got screens behind either side of the table that can show, product logos or show logos, product sponsors and all that kind of stuff. So we've wired this to be fully AV capable and, be able to present and really show off different types of products and, advertise whatever it is you're shooting. The idea inside of here would be eventually we would set it up with some robotic cameras. So what we're trying to figure out right now, again, is we did all the conduit. So this has conduit that comes to underneath the table to where the 3 TVs will go. It comes up into the ceiling here, and then I haven't finished the conduit yet, but we're going to be putting a junction box that runs the conduit back to the main studio. So all of this cabling from the podcast room goes back to our main IT server room, and then we can control everything from our master control and be able to switch from cameras inside of here to cameras inside of the studio, so we can be having some type of main show or event going on inside of the studio, and then be doing a smaller podcast segment over here, and then switch between the 2 into one actual program. So we'll be setting up this whole space to be wired together with that. So one of the things that we're trying to decide is what colors we actually want to go with for all of these different rooms, because just having white walls drives people crazy. So we're trying to be a little bit artistic and creative with our color scheme. So we'll see what we actually decide. But for the podcast room, I don't know, we're thinking maybe some golds and some purples. So, we'll probably do an accent wall and then our main color. And then there's going to be the black acoustical panels that cover that. So it's just a background color with our acoustical treatment that will be around the TVs. We'll set up RGB lighting behind the TV, so that way it gives us some accent lighting. So it's going to look really cool, be a great visual element. And again, it's all encased in the glass panel wall. So when you're out here, you can watch and see what's going on inside of the podcast and see what shows we're producing. All right, so we've got our main power distribution here. We want to make sure that we have access to all of our breakers easily, because in the middle of shooting, if all of a sudden we trip a breaker, we don't have to run across the building to the other side and figure out which one we tripped. So we do have our own sub panel. And one of the things that we thought about with the studio, thankfully a lot of things are LED now, but doing video production can still be very power intensive, especially when it comes to the lighting side. So what we set up is each of these boxes along with the studio wall are actually dedicated circuits. So we've got one dedicated, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. So we've got 8 dedicated circuits inside of the studio just at the ground level for lighting equipment or any special effects that we want to do. And then we also ran conduit and did a box up in the ceiling, so that way once we put our lighting grid in, we can easily add more dedicated circuits for that. So we made sure that we have plenty of power at the panel. Now the flip side to this, however, is the electrician that ran this only gave us an 80 amp circuit. So we're going to have to see if 80 amps is enough for our collective use as a whole. Again, thankfully, a lot of the stuff is going to LED for lighting. However, computers still use a lot of power, all of our video switching, so we're going to have to see. We can upgrade it down the road. That's the good thing about we're starting out with only 80 amps. So one of the important things when you're designing a studio or working with your electrician, make sure you have ample power. Whatever you think that you're going to need, maybe even double it, because you never know how much you're going to grow and expand. So we're waiting to see if we run into that limitation, but we did at least get our own dedicated breaker panel inside of here. That's one of the biggest issues I've seen with studios. They just, they don't know where the breakers are, and they also don't have enough power. So one of the important aspects, not as important, say, maybe as sound deadening and our conduit and everything, but our paint scheme. We want to make sure that the space that we're working in is calming, and it's also allowing our creativity to flow. So we're picking our color selection for the different rooms. Again, over in our podcast room, we're looking at maybe more of a purple and gold. We're going to probably go for some blues in our master control, but this is the studio room. So we want to make sure that the colors inside of here, we don't want to go with white because we don't want our light bouncing all over the place. So the important thing for us inside of the studio here is we want to make sure that we just don't have white walls everywhere. We want to be able to have some type of control over the light spill and how it bounces. So having white walls isn't too good for a studio atmosphere. We also wanted to make sure that it's not too dark. So a lot of theaters or big like warehouse studios, you'll see that everything's just painted black. That works great when you have a massive space, but we're working on a limited space budget here. So we're trying to pick some colors here. We were thinking either maybe like a silver or a little bit of a browner color. We're thinking more of the brown color. That way it gives us a multi-use to the space. We don't want it to just kind of be hard on the eyes. So we're choosing a color that's on the darker scale, but not super black, that will allow the space to still look somewhat spacious and then control our lighting inside of here. So we'll see what this looks like when we actually get to the final finishing stages. Alright guys, so I hope the walkthrough that we gave you is a good little overcap of where we've come. Unfortunately, everything with construction, there's so many crazy delays that you can't even fathom what might come up, waiting for inspection, waiting for your contractors. Or in the case of the studio here, we are currently in month 4, I think, of COVID. So we started this project about 1.5 years ago. For about 6 months, we had to wait for construction permits and contractors and everything, but we are finally in the finishing stages as far as the construction goes. So this video series, we're going to go ahead and be producing some of the content that we've shot over the past 1.5 years, and actually be putting that into a video series that shows you how we got to this stage. But there's also still a ton of content to come with us wiring it out and putting the equipment in the first few months of when we start producing inside of here. So I can't wait to show you guys what we got going on, and I hope you like and subscribe to our channel and show your support. So we'll talk to you soon.